Hi, and welcome to Successpillen, my dear friends. Aja Humm, your host today, as always, and we have a guest from the UK, and it's so exciting. He just released his first book on Amazon. It's called It's All in the Mind. So, to our listeners, hello everyone. Today we have Hughes, and actually, we can tell you a little secret that we thought we recorded a whole podcast episode, but we didn't record. So that's why we can say we had a general rehearsal. Do you say that in England?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and now is the real thing.
Yeah.
Now we have all the listeners with us. And we can hear your fantastic thoughts about the mind, about your life, about golf, about leadership, and all the snacksy parts we already talked about. But that will come out different this time, because every time is different.
This is true.
So, Phil, just tell us a bit about yourself. Where do you come from? And you already told me you have been working in Shell for 25 years.
24.
24.
I'm not that old.
You're not that old. Oh. We start a bit off with your corporate world and how you have developed looking back. So just say a few words about that. Please, it was so great.
Sure. So just for the listeners, I'm now going to be 10% better.
Yes.
Than I was at the rehearsal. Of course, you've got no way of knowing because you don't know what we talked about during the
There's
during
no
the
evidence.
recorded.
There's no evidence anymore. No.
So yeah, I've worked for Shell for nearly a quarter of a decade, and I've been interested in the role of the mind just generally since, I guess, the mid-90s. And I got interested because I was a big golfer. I played a lot of golf growing up and into my 20s, and I just wanted to find out a way to, how to get better at controlling my mind, because my mind sometimes would behave and sometimes it would go off on a holiday and not come back for 2 weeks, and I wouldn't know how to react to that. And so I would have a lot of thinking going on. There'd be an awful lot of activity up there, and sometimes that helped me, but mostly it didn't. So I was very interested in the role of the mind, chiefly. But I guess, for want of a better phrase, I wanted to know how better to manage my mind when I was on the golf course. But in the mid-90s, when I was in my early mid-20s, it was really all about positive thinking and strategies and making myself feel better, and sometimes that would work and sometimes it wouldn't. And that was kind of frustrating because I was always, like a lot of people, I was seeking the silver bullet, the bullet that was going to make me feel better the whole time, and the strategy which was going to make me feel great 100% of the time. So I read various Eastern philosophies and went on a spiritual journey, like a lot of people did. And then in 2011, when I was looking for the next big fix, the next big golf psychology book, I came across Still Power by Garrett Kramer on
right. And I'm going to put out the link on that book. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
And I knew there was something slightly different about it. It didn't read like your average psychology book, because there weren't too many tips or techniques in it. Well, there weren't any tips or techniques in it, or strategies. But that didn't stop me creating strategies from it. And there was one thing that I in particular remember Garrett wrote about. Are your thoughts clear? Are your feelings good? Are you open to the bigger picture? So I adopted that as a mantra. I think, I'd be checking in, am I thinking clearly? Am I feeling good? Sort of like, am I open to the bigger picture? In which case, go for it. And if I wasn't, then don't, sit still and wait for the good thought, the clear mind and the good feelings. And again, sometimes it would work and sometimes it wouldn't. And later that year, I was on a leadership training, and Had a touch of man flu. Didn't feel great at all. Don't know how sick I really was, but I just felt, you know what guys are like. I just felt terrible. And I had to do a presentation that day, and I really didn't want to do the presentation. Anything but the presentation, because I was just feeling awful, and I was thinking, oh, people will just think terrible things of me, that I'm not a good presenter, yada yada yada. The usual stuff that at the time I would think about presenting, and I just felt so bad. I thought, I'd been reading Garrett's book that morning. I thought, you know what, just show up and do the presentation and see what happens. And I did that, and for whatever reason, I was completely in the flow. I didn't have to think about anything. Everything came naturally to me. I didn't have to refer to storyboards or a script or anything. It just came pouring out of me. And it was really well received, and people were kind enough to say that, you know, that was an amazing presentation. Where did you learn to present like that? After people had said all these kind things about me, I was sitting back, reflecting on what had happened, and it occurred to me that I was feeling terrible. I'd totally forgotten about that. For the previous hour, when I'd been prepping for the presentation and I'd been working with people, and then I'd been given the presentation, I'd completely forgotten that I felt terrible. Totally gone out of my head. And then I remembered, and then I thought, hold on a minute, that went well and you felt terrible. How is that possible? Because everything I'd learned up to that point, you know, and I was 40 by that point, had suggested to me, in order to perform well, you've got to be feeling great, and you've got to have a clear head, and you have to have the right set of circumstances. And that experience just blew that out of the water, because according to what I'd learned, that should not have been possible. I felt terrible. How could it have gone that well?
So how could it?
Well, at that point, I realised that I'd missed the deeper point of that book, and I needed to take a deeper look into that book and others like it, because I just intuitively knew there was more to be seen. So for the last 7 years, I've been doing various courses and read various books and had various conversations to deepen my understanding of how the human experience really works.
So that's also why you now wrote your new book.
Right.
Yeah, about metaphors.
Yes.
And congratulations, this is so exciting. It really is.
Thank you.
And the beautiful thing reading your book is that you very often go to nature to find, like, understanding how our experiences as human beings, and you relate to other things out there in nature. And for me, it makes completely sense. And also, you have other pictures. Like, do you remember this metaphor about the DVD? I mean, those who are old enough to know what a DVD is.
Yes, I know. For you young'uns out there,
Yeah.
the DVD player used to be. No. Yeah, well, the parallel, the way things really work. I mean, the reason I wrote the metaphors is because that they just help you understand the human experience more than kind of dry words, if you know what I mean. Comparisons they paint a picture for people. They create an image in people's heads, like, oh, okay, so that's how it works. And it's just a bit more colorful. It brings it more to life, and the parallels are all around us. I mean, you could literally create a metaphor out of anything. You know, you really can. And it's our experience works one way. Sort of like, as we think, that's our experience. That's how we feel. That's how we create things. So it makes sense that there's nothing that you can experience that isn't within thought. It can't.
In thought.
Yeah. So if to be experiencing it, you have to be thinking about it. If you're not thinking about it, it can't. Sort of like, if it's beyond thought, it can't be in your experience. You cannot experience something that is beyond thought. You absolutely can't. And if people And if people don't believe that, fair enough. I totally get that. You've got to be able to prove things through your own experience, right? You shouldn't trust what other people say or their experience. Rely on your own experience. Test it out. Say, okay, what in my life have I experienced that has not included thinking? But the catch is, Aya, you can't think about it. Because if you do, you've kind of proved the point.
Oh, wow. That's deep.
Sorry, I hate it when people do that to me. But that, I mean, that's the thing, right? And I mean, that's what we've got to look at. It's okay. So if your thinking isn't included, how is your experience being formed? How's it being created? There's only one way it works. If people can find an exception to it, I'd love to hear about it. I personally have not come across one. I'm not saying there isn't one out there, but my experience tells me, my experience suggests I haven't found one, and I really don't believe there is an exception.
That we are always feeling our thinking.
Yeah, absolutely.
In the moment. That's what
absolutely.
you mean? Okay.
Yeah, completely. And the DVD player metaphor came to me because basically there are three components to the human experience, right? So there has to be a life force, an animating force. So that if you like is the DVD player, which actually plays the DVD. Then there has to be a screen, if you will, on which all the action takes place. So that's the TV screen, or what we call consciousness. That's our ability to be conscious. We experience everything that's going on in consciousness. Now, if that was the extent of it, if that's where it finished there, then you wouldn't see a lot on the screen. It would just be blank pixels. There would really be nothing there. So thought or thinking, that's what colors the pixels of the screen. That's what creates the action, the perceived action. So that's where I came up with the image. So the DVD player is the energy behind life. The TV screen is consciousness. And then the images that are coming off of the DVD, which are being played into the TV, those are your thoughts. Those thoughts are what creates the action that you actually see on the TV screen of life.
Wow. So I know there are many business people listening to this podcast. And obviously, we are human beings interested in helping us and helping our colleagues achieve our goals, our business goals, as well as our life goals, but right now also the day-to-day business goals. So what would you say could be helpful for our listeners to go out tomorrow to work with a different maybe attitude, something, some new thoughts, some new insights to help?
Yeah, great question. I think for me, it's always a case of understanding what is it I want to achieve, what is it I've got to achieve, and then understanding, well, what stops me from achieving it, and really putting that under the microscope. Because generally speaking, I mean, there are practical considerations to this as well. There are some things that are physically or logistically impossible. But it's amazing how, when you really look deeply into business problems, how many of them are, well, all of them are thought created for a start. They're all your perception of everything is a result of what you're thinking. It's all thought created. But when you actually start to look at the truth of that thought created world, some very surprising things can happen if you really put it under the microscope. Because it can lead you to realize how much of what you believed was cast in stone, an absolute fact, is actually a thought-based kind of story, an illusion you've been telling yourself, and it's not as true as you thought it was. And what I've found for me, Aya, is as I've learned more and more about this, and my mind has generally got quieter and quieter and quieter, I just don't see the amount of problems that I used to. So one of the things about having a really clear mind and realizing that you can only ever experience your thinking is, over time it quietens your mind down, and without you actually doing anything, things that look like problems no longer look like problems. So to the person going into work wanting a better experience, wanting to achieve their goals, I would say really put those feelings under the microscope and put your reality under the microscope and challenge the truth of it, and say, is that really true? And if you're still convinced that it's true, ask yourself, well, how can, if this experience, if this reality isn't thought created, where is it coming from? If thinking isn't involved at all, what's the basis for it? Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And I think many people would say, like, it's, of course I'm caught up because I'm afraid maybe of losing my job or not reaching my goal, and this is reality.
Yeah. But again, it's where, and that's completely understandable. And as long as you're human, you're going to have those experiences. But it's a misunderstanding of where it's coming from. It's saying, I'm worried about losing my job. Well, okay, let's look at that for a moment. You're worried about losing your job. Why do you think you're going to lose your job? And then, sort of, because it's like, well, this, and you'll usually find there's a whole load of projections into the future that are associated with that. The person, to some degree or another, has convinced themselves that the story of the future is already written. We can't know that. We don't know that. There's only one place you can be. There's only one time you can be, sorry, which is now. And there's only one place that you can be, which is here. All of those projections, you're experiencing them now and here. They're just, I mean, I hate to say this, they're just thoughts. I mean, it trivializes them. It feels real. It feels like a real experience. But put under the microscope, it's only happening now. It's only happening here. If we could all tell the future, we'd all be winning the Euro lottery every week. And I notice we're not. If anyone does know what the numbers are going to be next week, I'll even stump up the Euro for the ticket and split the winnings with you if you want. I mean, I'm perfectly prepared to do that. But it's kind of sweet in that as human beings, we think we can kind of turn off this sixth sense which tells us about the future in some circumstances, and others we can't. We worry about our spouse, we worry about our kids, and this, that, and the other. The truth is, we have no idea how things are going to turn out. And all of these things about losing your job and all these, I'm not demeaning the experience because it seems really, really real at the time. But the truth is, we have no idea how it's going to play out. You losing your job could be the best thing that ever happens to you. You just have no way of knowing.
It feels really comforting when you say it like that, Phil.
Good. That was the idea.
Yeah, it really does. And I also think a lot of people will feel the same.
Well, I hope so, because we waste so much energy worrying about the past, worrying about the future, and when you look at it, I mean, again, you can only experience the past and the future in one time in one place, now and here, or nowhere, if you like, put them together. I mean, that's the only place you can experience them. But we waste so much energy thinking about these things, and when you think about it, I'm sure that you like me have got experiences that 20 years ago seemed like a really big deal to you,
Mm.
and now they're no longer a big deal. Well, the
Absolutely.
circumstances happened the way the
Mm.
circumstances happened,
Mm.
but your feelings and your whole perception of that event has completely changed. Now,
Mm.
how is that possible?
Yeah. And you told me before about you have used to work really hard on your presentations,
Yeah.
and that changed also for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that. So it used to be up to 2 or 3 years ago that I would,
Mm.
if I was given 2 weeks to do a presentation, I would absolutely grind on it for 13 of those 14 days before handing it into management and then getting the feedback. And invariably it would be they would come back with changes which would take me 2 days, and I had 2 hours to do them in, and the whole experience was incredibly stressful.
Mm.
But about 2 or 3 years ago, I just had this insight. This thought just came into my head. Well, when you've perfected your presentation, how
Mm.
many people is it perfect to? And the answer came back, one, you. You have no idea how the other people are going to think about that presentation. You don't know whether they're going to love it or hate it or somewhere in between. You have no idea because you're not in their head, and everyone's living in their own thought created reality. So why are you stressing about this? Because no matter how good you think it is, you cannot guarantee how it's going to be received. So what that did for me, I dropped a lot of thinking about it, because
Mm.
invariably the thinking was all about me. It was like, oh, what are they going to think of me if I don't do it right? What
Mm.
if I mess this up? What if I do this? What if I do that? What if I do the other? And I thought, you know what? It's not about me at all. I mean, they're going to react the way they're going to react. So just do whatever makes sense to you in that moment in time, put it out there and see what happens.
Mm.
So I started doing presentations in a day as opposed to 13 days. Because I just wasn't thinking about it so much and getting in my own way so much. I was just doing what made sense, going with
Mm.
my first instinct and putting it out there after a day, knowing I had 13 days to correct it. And the
Mm.
really interesting thing is, Aya, is that I get way less feedback and corrections now than I ever
Mm.
did.
Wow. So you feel they even got better, the
Oh
quality?
yeah, because I think I spent so much time tying myself into a mental knot.
Yeah.
I had no idea what was good or bad anymore anyway. I had no sense of
Yeah.
what was good or bad
Yeah.
because I was trying to intellectually figure it out, and it was a complete waste of time, because I was trying to judge myself against a yardstick which I'd completely made up
Mm.
and was a complete illusion.
Mm.
So you know the problem with trying to live up to an illusion is you can't do it.
That's so true. Uh, I get, I mean, we can say that you had a lot of insecure thinking about
Yeah,
your presentations. And
yeah,
traditionally, we are a bit used to hearing that, oh, okay, then people should give you positive feedback and encourage you,
yeah.
and all, like a lot of things telling you you're good
Mm,
so that you can have more confidence. But this is actually not what happened to you.
no,
The
not at all.
change was in different. So how is it different from telling you you're good?
Well, I kind of realized that good and bad is a very, very subjective standard anyway. I mean, if we create a spectrum with good on one end and bad on the other, where's the line? Where does it cross over from being good to bad? If you put 30 people in a room and they're listening to a very provocative speaker, say Donald Trump, just plucking an example out of the air, some people in that room are going to completely agree with everything he says. Some people are going to completely disagree with everything he says. They're listening to the same person. So everyone's line as to what's credible, what's not credible, what's good, what's not good. It's different. It varies from, from person to person and from moment to moment within that person. Because I know there are things that I love now, like sushi. I love sushi. 20 years
Yeah,
ago,
me
I
too.
hated it. But it's still the same. Well, it's not the same sushi, obviously. That'd be really bad. But, it'd be horrible. But, my attitude has completely changed. But sushi fundamentally hasn't changed, the idea of it. So what I came to realize, Aya, is good and bad. I mean, the thing is, if you encourage if you empower positive thinking, you automatically empower negative thinking as well. If you're no longer particularly worried about either, neither's a problem. So what some people think is good, some people think is bad. So it can't be the thing. So that the standard has all got to be made up. And it's just I mean, when we're born, we don't have language. We can't say we don't say this is good or bad. We might have a sense of it, but we can't articulate it. We don't have that. We learn that. We learn that. It's not something which is inherent to us at all. So all these yardsticks, they're just kind of made up, and I guess that's how I got past, sort of being worried about good and bad thinking. Now, just to be clear, I'm still right in it every day. I have stuff that I think is wonderful and things I think are terrible, but that's what you do as you're being a human. Being a human. Some days you can see that it's all made up, and other days it looks seriously real and a serious problem.
So if a colleague of you would have like what we can call like bad behavior, rude language or cynical or absolutely no smiles, no encouraging body language and all those things that normally make us secure and well.
Yeah.
Do you have like a suggestion for people that can help dealing with this kind of behavior?
Be with them, as much as you can. Just be with them, listen to them and understand them, and don't judge them. Try and just the power of listening is huge. To just feel like someone isn't judging you, that they're just accepting you for who you are.
But that would be difficult in a business meeting, for instance.
Sure, it can be really, really difficult, but I've seen it several times where people will just calm down, because if you meet, say, aggression with aggression, it just fuels the aggression. I mean, it's a bit like trying to put out a fire by throwing gasoline on it. That's not really going to do the trick. Whereas if you just let the fire, so to speak, just sort of burn itself out, it will. And if you just basically try and understand people and give them space to be who they are and to really understand where it's coming from, then they might just calm down enough for you to really help them understand that maybe the way they're seeing things isn't factual reality. It's just how they happen to be feeling about things in that moment in time. I'm not saying it's easy, though.
Yeah. No. I think that's something to reflect on.
I reflect on it all the time.
Yeah.
And believe me, there are some people who drive me absolutely nuts. I'm better at it with some people than others. I mean, it depends where I am on the day, because you're human, right? And you go up and down. And I think, I think that's something that the most enlightened beings of, history, whoever you want to think of, whether it's, Jesus or the Buddha or anyone like that. I think part of their enlightenment was they got really comfortable with, well, I'm always going to be a human, in which case I'm going to have my good moments and my bad moments, and that's okay, because that's part of the deal. That's part of the package. But the good thing is when you see that those are experiences. If you like, those are images playing out on the TV screen, but they're not who you are. then that gives you a little bit of distance from them.
So you are better than that, you think?
You're not what you think.
Mm.
You're not the contents of that. The close, I've had some teachers talk about it as, you are the screen on which the action plays out. And that makes sense to me.
So would you have, like, for the listeners in Norway and also probably in other parts of Europe at least, we're now in the dark season. And since you're so connected to nature in your metaphors, could you give us some hope here in the darkness?
Well, I think you just said it, Aya, to be honest with you, because the sun's always there, even when you can't see it. Don't forget,
Oh,
it's there.
that's beautiful.
It never goes anywhere, even when you can convince yourself that you absolutely can't see it.
Huh.
And okay, so I'll add to it a little bit. So even though it's the dark season, you don't see the sun much. Can you still see the moon?
Yes.
Where's the moonlight coming from?
The sun.
Exactly. Yeah, the moon doesn't have light. It's reflecting the sun. So when you can't see the sun, look for the moon. I don't know what to do if you can't see the moon. I mean, but just know the sun is still up there, even when you can't see it. And it's exactly the same with our well-being as well.
Mm.
Even when when it feels like you can't connect to it, it's still there. And if you don't believe that the human system, the physiological and the mental human system, is there looking after you, I'd encourage you to do a quick experiment, which is to hold your breath for as long as you can. Sooner or later, you're going to breathe out. You can't help it, because that's your body looking after you.
Wow.
You're very welcome.
So every time we doubt, we can just hold our breath.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because sooner or later you're going to breathe out. You can't not breathe out, and the system is designed to look after you. That's why we don't have to set our alarm clocks for 2 a.m. to check that we're still breathing and that our hearts are still going. Those things happen naturally, and our minds are no different. The mind will always strive to clear out any unhelpful thinking, any thinking which is taking you in an unproductive direction. It will always try. And I've had people who have been in the midst of depression say to me, "I don't believe that. I've been feeling this way for the last 20 years." And I've asked them, so have, as gently as I can, so in those 20 years, have you ever even had a split second where you felt better, where you felt differently? And they always say yes. And I said, well, there you go. That's your wisdom, that's your well-being trying to peek through. Just to remind you that it's trying to change things. Because your experience is always changing, even when it looks like it's static. It never is. It's always changing imperceptibly.
Yes. Like the sun coming back.
Yeah.
So it
It's
was
inching
always
its
there.
way back to us.
Yeah.
Might take a while, might take 6 months, but it'll come back. You'll be able to see it again, but it's always there, even when you can't see it for 6 months.
So true. Thank you so much, Phil, writer of It's All in the Mind. And we can get your book on Amazon.com really easily, or Kindle.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, thank you for having me as a guest, Aya. It's been immensely enjoyable. And if anyone wants to reach out to me, feel free.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you.